right, welcome back to another SaaS Connect 101. I guess this is really SI Connect because we have Chaitra from Meylah, who has been a born in the cloud system integrator in the Microsoft ecosystem for the past 8 years. And we have talked for many years about the stunning complexity of working with Microsoft and their ecosystem. They do have a $1 trillion ecosystem, and they do have probably 1 trillion different business titles at Microsoft. It's hard to navigate. So thanks for being here and helping us figure it out. You are our Sherpa in the Microsoft ecosystem. Why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what Meylah is?
Sure, Sunny. First, just thank you for having me, and thank you for calling me Sherpa in the Microsoft ecosystem. That's a good title for me to have it, and hopefully I can help everyone. But as you're thinking about what you want to get answers to, type in some of the questions that you want to learn in the Microsoft ecosystem. But a little bit about me. I run two companies. One is Meylah, which is the technology cloud provider, and I call as a SI. And we are a Microsoft Gold partner. But me as an individual, I'm the CMO and co-founder at Meylah. I love building communities. I am a digital strategist as well as love building public-private partnership. And the purpose that I live is to create economic access for all. That is the intention. So here I'm here, Sunir. Whatever you want to ask, I'm here. I can answer and give you what you want to hear.
All right, awesome. So I did post the question to everybody, and it's just what are you? Explain yourself to us is kind of what this interview is going to be. And then we did have a presentation, but I think we decided that because we've known each other for so long, let's just have a fun conversation, folks. Please drop your questions in real time. Use the Q&A because it's a lot easier than the chat. Let's just keep this flowing because it's really hard for all of us to understand Microsoft land. And I will say, just to set table set, that Microsoft has literally a $1 trillion ecosystem. 96% of the revenue comes from partners, and they're moving to the cloud. All of us are trying to figure it out, but it's hard. And so that's where we have you here. So you kind of explained it. Let's dive down and what exactly kind of work you're doing. I mean, SIs could be different kinds of things because there's so much surface area in Microsoft land. Who's a typical customer you might have, or the most exciting customer you've had in the last 6 months, or let's just say?
Sure, Sunir. First, let me talk about what Meylah does. I think that would help. So we are in the cloud business for last 10 years, but we were a consumer-focused product. Then we pivoted into an enterprise-focused. So we'll talk about how we pivoted and where the SI piece came in. So we are not a typical technology company. So we focus on really building is economic access and igniting economic access for digital transformation. So focusing a lot on the economic development work with our customer. So the customers that we typically work with is HPE, F5, City of Kirkland, City of Grace Harbor. With a lot of the cities and government, we work with them. And then we also work with a lot of the tech brands. And the kind of work we do is really consulting. We do a lot of blue ocean consulting around digital transformation for our customers. Then we also focus a lot around cloud development, hosting, and management. And majority of our cloud, we come in, I would say 98% of our cloud consumption that we drive is Microsoft Cloud. So you can ask me anything about in that space. And then we focus a lot around the community development, which is a lot of event-related technology automation. Because when we are driving economic development, event was one of the key focus. So we spent a lot of work in that space. So a lot of data, AI, cloud infrastructure is what we use to kind of create a vision for what a customer is trying to accomplish.
All right, you did challenge me to give you a hard time today, so I'm going to do that. Like a typical consultant, you said you're doing digital transformation in blue ocean, which basically means please talk to us, we'll figure it out. But you have been in for 8 years, and you've actually focused on a couple. You built some practices, more specifically around the Microsoft Cloud and development and hosted management, and now the events business. So if you were talking to the city of Kirkland, or like what's a typical kind of project? Digital transformation can be a million things for these companies.
Sure,
Like
sure.
what is the micro? I mean, I'm trying to get to like what is the actual meat on the ground, like the concrete that's happening, because
Sure.
that'll help us
So
understand too.
let me tell you a story. So I think that would help. So when the COVID hit, most of the cities started to see that the small businesses were really struggling around getting access to customers. So they were having struggle with getting customer demand. So the city basically, we worked with the state as well as the city and say, how about we do is a digital transformation of the main street. So what we want to do is create a digital twin of the main street. That means we want to create a portal, allow all the aggregation of the businesses, and make sure that the residents can come and do business with the local business very easily. So if you all go to shoplocalkirkland.com, it allows people to see what that solution looks like so you can really do business with your local. The things that they were looking for is they wanted to know, how do consumers really interact with small business? Are they buying and picking, or are they buying and shipping, or they are bartering with each other? What does that look like? So they wanted to create customer demand for them. So what we did was put a technology capability in place which automated all these manual processes and gave them data intelligence for them to do the right campaigns and drive more economic development in the city of Kirkland. Was that helpful?
Yeah, so I'm just trying to nail this down so we can paint a story here. And there's some questions coming in that will relate to this. So, like, the interesting thing about companies like yours, in my estimation, is that you kind of, I mean, I worked for one. That's how I started my career when I was 18 for a company called Ingenious Engineering in Ottawa. And you kind of build relationships and find the client contracts that come from that. You mentioned the city of Kirtland and a couple other public entities. Is that basically where you're driving most of your customer demand from, like municipal contracts?
So yes, so most of the work that we are doing is in the, I would say, the public space. That's one. We also work with the hyperscalers, like big companies, because they support the small businesses. So we kind of come in between the small businesses and the big brands and create as a community development programming using technology, which focus really on economic development. It
And where did
has
you
broad economic
and where do you
development.
find these clients? I mean, that's actually really the real story. Yeah.
So that's a good question. So when you start first time, it's hard to find customers, right? So you're really doing a lot of show and tell. So I really have a laser focused list of companies that I want to go after, and then really do is pick up the phone, call them, talk to them. The other things that I've also seen is doing a lot of events in the right ecosystem. So let's see, if I want to reach economic development managers, I'll go into forums and events where they spend most of the time, talk about what they're struggling with, and really focus on their problems, like what we can solve. And it takes an enterprise deal anywhere from 3 months to a year of nurturing that relationship. Because when we started Meylah, right, it was the first 5 years we were in e-commerce business for consumers. Really, we could not make any money. At that time, we were like, oh my God, we can't. So we had to pivot. But because I came from Microsoft, I knew that the channel business was a right business. That means if you can get into the enterprise market, the company can become very stable very quickly. So that was kind of the way. And now we work with Microsoft and we work closely in a co-sell deal. They will take us in front of the customer because we are solving a problem and we have as a niche product as a hook. And once we put that solution in, we can always add more and more, enhancements and upgrades and custom projects on top of it, which drives more consumption.
Yeah, awesome. Like more questions are coming in. I'm trying to tie it together. But here's the thing. Like we're talking about zero to thrive. So 8 years ago, this is why I'm trying to nail this down because it's important. You had zero. So you started, how did you get your first clients or clients? And how did you, like, what project did you do and how did you convince them you could do it? And that, I think, is the interesting beginning story.
Sure. So when we started the company, was mostly on a digital platform, which is an e-commerce platform, and we went to the VCs There was not a whole lot of funding available because at that time e-commerce was not a thing. It was a very highly innovative, but even all the companies were trying to figure out. But there was a lack of access for funding for, people of color. It was just hard, and still it is, right? And then there was a lot of fierce competition on the e-commerce business of what solutions needed to come. And third one we faced a lot was a lack of partnership. Like we just did not have partnership. That was the time we said, you know what, we need to look at a different way and go to working with a brand. And because I come from Microsoft, I said, why don't we go back to the basic, become a Microsoft partner? But the way to work with them is bring a customer with you. So we bought a customer and said, here is an implementation we want to do. We need technical support. We need architecture review, and we need something. So it was much more easier if you had a customer. Nobody wants to work, whether you're AWS, Google, Microsoft, or IBM. They will not give you the first access into all the resources if you don't have a customer. So we
Was this?
bought the first
No, go ahead.
customer, and then we went innovating with them, and we had the Microsoft folks really helping us kind of develop the solution that we needed.
And this customer, were they just somewhat random through your exploration? They were like just broke through, or did you know them before? You said you were like
So,
basically, pressing.
so because I come from that ecosystem, I had one of my friend actually say, I have a need. Can you come and do this work? And basically we started with a consulting work because they wanted the blue ocean consulting. So we started with the consulting. And then we basically said we can automate this one because I have the tech resources available. So we innovated the first solution. Then we added some of the cloud solutions to kind of integrate and create a prototype, and the customers loved it, and they said, okay, we want you to manage it because we don't want to manage. And it one was for a sake company based out of Japan who was our first customer. And it was hard because at that time cloud was purchased through tokens, and it was not easy. It was so difficult. It was not like pay as you go. It was based on your token. What we learned through that process is we implemented, the technology was going fine, and one day the website and the whole technology disappeared. And we don't know, like, what happened? We went through everything, realized the token had expired. We had to put more money into the token. So that was the time when we really learned, is like, oh, this is how the cloud technology works. And as a system integrator, we want to be upfront in making sure the consumption business is going really well.
Okay, I went through all that for a reason, because the questions are coming in. It helps to contextualize some of this stuff. I mean, when you open, it's your bullet points that you're selling to clients, but the reality is your journey to start was, like you said, you had to float around, find some clients, then you did the blue ocean, the consulting, and then the solution started shaping itself out.
Exactly.
And then you went to the Microsoft to start with.
Exactly.
Right. So the last question before I get to some of the Q&A, because it's relevant, and actually this is Sanjay's question, is the same. Like, you're not just doing Microsoft as well, you're doing some other products as well. So you've expanded your vendor set. You have I mentioned it in the promo. Like, well, who else are you working with beyond Microsoft?
So we have, so we work with the Google Cloud and also the IBM Cloud. What I've realized is when you are part of their marketplaces, you actually get access to the customers very good because we are part of their go-to-market campaign. And then I didn't talk about AWS because there are a couple of things that we are doing, but we have to be neutral to all the brands. But the thing that these companies are doing really well, which is like all of you need to pay attention, is when they're working with the enterprise brand, they actually can really place your solution in front of their agreement and say, here are some solutions that you need. And you actually are invited to come and do the demo or do the test trials with the customer. Now, with regards to how we work, I work with Beautiful AI. I work with DocuSign. I have Smartsheet. And these are our technologies that we have used. So when we have to deploy the customer solution, we really look at what they are trying to accomplish from a workflow perspective and the outcome. and then we stitch the solution for them to accomplish it. The goal is to reduce their manual activities as much as possible. Sometimes they will tell us what technology we have to use, sometimes we recommend, but it's really a dance between the customer and us.
I mean, those questions, I hope Sanjay Goel from Natural asked those questions. Can I answer? He was asking, do you have exclusive deals with Microsoft? No, because you said like whatever the client wants, and you work with other providers.
Yes. So the customers decide what technology stack they want to use. We may be 100% like, let's say we have a majority of our resources ready on the Microsoft Cloud stack, but I also have resources on the Google, AWS, and IBM stack, because you don't know what a customer needs, because every group is using different technology stack. We want to be like a one technology stack we could provide, but there are bigger players who are driving the standardization of what a cloud stack should look like. And I like to do is wherever we have a strong strength, we want to go and support the bigger players who are supporting the customer.
Okay, awesome. So in that vein, Gabe Caldwell from FormStack had a question. So, which, you said we work with other vendors. So now the vendor's like, great, let's work with me. So Gabe, I'm putting words in his mouth. It's not fair. You said FormStack just built an integration to Microsoft Power Automate to help Microsoft users collect data, generate documents, and get digital signatures. So his question, of course, is now he's done that. How does an ISV engage with SIs like Meylah to partner and go to market? Like, what does it take for you to go bring FormStack into a deal?
So first is I will always look at the demo of your product. I will look at how your cloud deal looks like, or what your deal looks like for us, to see if it is a profitable project if we go in. And if it takes like a year, like the first year, usually if you can break even, that would be great. The second year, you definitely have to make sure that we are making even 1 to 5% profit. Otherwise, there's no use of putting a product, and then the company who is serving the customer usually takes a lot of the financial risk. So you need to be extremely careful who you put in front of the customer. The customer usually goes every year. The deal size goes down because of the automation work. What you have to be very good at is innovating and building new innovations on top of it. So as a SI, we're constantly coming up with projects that allow to create a footprint that is growing bigger. So the starting may be a consulting, but really is once you look at a first pilot done, you should have 3 other projects lined up of what the next innovation are. So if let's say if I want to have FormStack, if FormStack is already part of the customer portfolio, makes it easy. That means I'll unlock your subscription and drive the consumption of it. Let's say it's not part of their tech stack. That means I have to get you go through. You can be on my paper, which will be easier, but you have to go through security reviews. You have to go through a lot of the handshake that needs to happen. So there's a lot of work that needs to happen. So it really depends upon deal to deal. There's nothing called as I can just put everything together and do it. The other model we are also looking at, Sunir, is can we integrate into our product, which is the functionality that we have. Let's say FormStack becomes a product, a feature, or a capability, part of it, and basically we give them a customer bundle so that it doesn't feel like 2 software line items. So those are
the Speaker Engage you're talking about, right?
Yeah, Speaker Engage is that. Main Street Digital is like that. So like for Main Street Digital, or Digital Main Street solution that we have, we are looking for a form-based solution. But we went through, MailChimp and all the other ones, Submittable and all this one, realized that they were not comfortable for integrating the way we wanted. So we had to really use our own forms to create it because they were not flexible enough to really make money out of it. So we had to build our own forms. If there is a solution, it was like snap it, and then you can do a workflow automation. Then I'm all ready to listen and really integrate into a product suite.
Okay, that's interesting. I want to go to the first half of that, your
Yeah.
response too. So you did actually achieve some of this with Smartsheet because you actually have a practice program around Smartsheet where you do have multiple modules
Yes.
or development. So how did that like? Obviously, Smartsheet's in Seattle, you know them, but like, how did you develop with
I
them, and
had
then what have you developed? Like, what are the program modules?
so first is I started as a customer of Smartsheet, started using for our own business, making sure that we did not have any glitches. Whatever they promise doesn't mean that in real life it works. Then we took it to one of our customers who did not have a project management suite. So what we did was build everything on Smartsheet because it was Excel and putting some, capabilities on top of it, like configuring all the layouts. You could create the dashboard very quickly, the project management schedule quickly. So it was very easy for them. So they were comfortable with Excel, and Smartsheet was just Excel on steroids. So what we did was basically added that as a subscription part of the sale. And that particular deal we had was with the city of Miami, I think. Yeah, it was city of Miami. Basically they bought the subscription and we just activated that one. We did not get any referral fees or something because they do not have a very strong a partnership program in place. So we said it's okay if the customer is happy, they will work with us. So it doesn't really matter because we are not looking to make money through the referral fees. It doesn't, it's just pennies. What you really want to make money is in annual contracts that works and that keeps your people engaged all year long, not the software sale just.
Did you end up making like service packages that are consistent from client to client, or is every Smartsheet deployment a unique deployment?
It if it's a data one, it's usually a standard deployments because you have to pull Excel spreadsheets and move in and create like a configuration of it. And now Smartsheet has become very smart. They already have those modules created. So now you have to go through their professional services to go deploy it. So I usually tell the customers, if you want us to do it, we can do it, or you can go through the professional services of Smartsheet and you can do it. So it really depends upon which direction you need to go. But for me, I love the product, easy to configure, easy to show the value in days rather than trying to build a software around trying to do something, what they're trying to do, especially the pilots.
You
Very easy.
know, I am deeply involved with this confusion about how an SI software company and the services component work in order to make a managed services question. And so I'm happy to say that Ty Renford from White Label Consulting is here because I did corner him at a Dreamforce cocktail party. Remember those? When we could see face to face, and asked him point blank, what is going on with agencies and why aren't you managing software? So I'm glad he's still at least friendly with me. And he asked a good question around this. How do you even work with the software companies? So, but it's relevant, and I think we should dig down at it. So, like, what if anything? Now, keep in mind he's a service company too. So, what if anything do you find to be structurally difficult about working in the Microsoft partner ecosystem? And I think I can go really deep on this question too. So, I'm just curious, like, top of mind, top like, what's the
Top of
biggest problem you have with working with
Yes.
Microsoft?
So when you're working with Microsoft, Amazon, or Google, you need to think like kingdom. You're going into a kingdom. They have their own acronyms. The navigation, like everybody has their own, a smaller kingdom within a bigger kingdom. So you have to have a very open mind. The frustration is high because for a lot of people, they don't know how to navigate. So the way I usually do, and the way you have to think about the Microsoft piece is to make sure that you understand how to navigate, you know what the new language is. So there's a lot of acronyms that you need to know. You need to know like CSP, you need to know, ISV, you need to know, you know, BAPG. God knows there are like so many acronyms going on. But the point is, it is a shorter form of whatever they are trying to solve. It's an acronym. So you need to know that language. I had one time, I was at Microsoft, I had just recently joined. Somebody used like 6 acronyms in a sentence. And I'm like, what exactly are they talking about? And then I realized, oh my God, it's a language. So I had my team create is a booklet of all the acronyms for so that I can learn for that particular year. Do you know how many pages of those acronyms were for the company? It was over 25 pages of acronyms.
I often dream. I told you this. I often dream that, if once I'm done with Appline 10 years from now, rich as I am, I will go back to Microsoft because I always wanted to work for them, and I will just learn to communicate what they're doing to the human species.
But their vision is very clear, right? So that kind of makes it good.
Is it?
uh, I do feel like I because I probably I drink that
I
Kool-Aid
know.
more than
What is one
anyone.
commercial partner? I'm going to ask you again. What is it?
It is commercial partners who are adopting cloud technologies and solving problems in the world. That's what
It's like
commercial partners.
95% of their revenue. Isn't it just Microsoft? That's anyway. I'm sure it makes sense to them, but
Yeah, it
it
does.
seems like
It does
all of
make
Microsoft is one commercial partner, except for
exactly,
Xbox. I mean, I guess.
exactly.
Okay.
Um,
So what about you're mentioning like making money and not worrying about the commissions and having service revenue? This is a real problem with you as an SI. I mean, Ty and I were headed out. I bought him a free drink, so I guess he owed me. I don't know how that works. The the he says true. You were really mad because I really pressed you. I really appreciate the feedback. So like the question is what does it take for you to make money managing one of these products and bringing it into the customer? And I will tell you my bias here. Of course, I'm at Appline. I used to work in a Microsoft SI when I was younger, and I had hair. I was 18. It was licensed software, so I never thought anything of it. Clients would call us. They have a problem. We'd buy the hardware, networking, Windows licenses, SDKs, build a system, deploy it, get paid for it, get the training and maintenance contracts, keep the customer for years, right?
yeah.
And that doesn't work in the subscription era, right? Because how do you pay for these subscriptions? You get stuck on them. Like you said, put on your paper. How do you do that? So what how are you managing these contracts, and how are you building a business on top of them?
So the new world that we are in the recurring revenue business, right? Because everybody wants that recurring revenue. So the way when I look at the partnerships that we build, the customers we acquire, that's why we do the consulting, just to figure out if this customer is even good for us to work with, and it can be a long-term customer, right? Because if it's not going to bring that recurring revenue deal with the software, then it's not really a powerful. So as an SI, we always have kept an eye on two things. One is we want to really serve the customer the way they needs to be served, but also build technologies that we can get as a recurring revenue on it. So that's why we have Speaker Engage, we have e-commerce platforms, and then we have is digital mainstream, because these are the common solutions that the customer needed, and that one was not available in the market. So we built it. So now, but we do not really lead with the saying, hey, just buy our technology. We really lead with we can solve problems. And as part of the technology stack, we also recommend our technology stack and our friends and our network of partners who they have their solution. We actually stitch a technology stack to help all of us together, and that's what we go and implement. So does that make
Yeah,
sense?
interesting. Yeah, so you actually had built your own product with its own brand and everything, two
Exactly.
products, and you're selling it, which is I guess, a common solution. We actually did that when we were doing licensed software. We made something called Soft TV, and we sold it. Um, but not everyone has the engineering talent to do that. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, but as an
That's your
SI,
strategy.
right, but as an SI, you will have an engineering talent. So as
Yes, that's right.
CEO of the company, you should always keep an eye on is what is the solution that can be repeatable, that can also make your sales repeatable. You should have that solution really handy. Not and The solution is a tech solution and a business value proposition. They all need to go together. And the solution is usually a technology stack. It's not just your product. So that's what you need to remember. And we know that as a company we are doing pretty good. We have grown the partnership really well with all our partners, And having a Microsoft brand attached to our company, because we are a gold partner, it makes it easier for us to get into the customer conversation very easily. They don't even question us as soon as they know that we are a gold partner. And as a gold partner, we are driving consumption. So whenever there is an issue, we can go back to Microsoft. They will, remove those barriers very quickly. And those barriers are the high cost barriers, right? If you don't know how to configure your cloud solution, or the cloud solution, or the Azure is not working, or Office is not working. But if you're a gold partner, you can get the technical assistance right away. And that makes it a big deal because the speed of execution goes well. The
And some
second
people
one
may
is
not know. To become a gold partner, what do you have to do? It's basically
there are
drive.
some metrics you have to follow. There are a few certifications you have to go for your people. And second is you have to drive consumption of the product. So it's a very much performance-based status. So if you reach certain status of how much Azure you're driving, or how much consumption of Office you're making, usually you'll get the status. And based on the status, they will open up your customer list to you, and you can start working with the customer, and you can go do co-selling with them. And co-selling in enterprise is so important because the account managers does the selling. You come and do is the demo and the trials and pilots, which is very, very powerful. And that's why it's like having a SI business is very crucial, winning an enterprise market and also having a solution that you can implement in the technology stack that will have a longevity of the relationship.
So this is how it goes. So this is when Microsoft is referring clients to you. Gabe from FormStack asked this question. So they will, at the metal tiers, start sending you
Yes.
their clientele. And this is for the products you build, like Speaker Engage and Main Street, or these are for general services?
Yeah. So they will say, it's like, this is a very interesting solution. I want you to meet with this customer and do a demo and see if there is an opportunity. And if there's an opportunity, it's usually because they have an enterprise contract with them and they want to really drive the consumption of their software. And our solution just goes and drives the consumption of the software.
And then, is it always the same person at Microsoft you're working with, or are you working with like Gabe points out, they have 20,000 field sellers at Microsoft. So are the deals just coming in from wherever and then coming? How does it pipe? Like Microsoft is a big company, right?
So they have this partner center as a self-service platform. So if you have listed your solution, if the leads are coming, the leads will come through from online directly into your inbox. If it's a seller based, you have as a bi-directional CRM system in place. The third one is you have a relationship in the field, and the field guys, they're very small amount and they go specific market. So you need to know what market and what's the value proposition. It has to drive value for the seller. If it doesn't reduce the quota for them, they will not see you, they will not touch you, and the quota needs to be reduced in 3 months. The first deal that you close has to happen in 3 months. So the speed of execution is very, very important.
And what's the quota base? Is it Azure consumption?
It would be Azure consumption, new customer ads, or new customer purchasing, like upsell of the certain product.
So, a very common problem is that if most ISVs are not on Azure, they're on AWS or Google or whatever. And so are they? Yeah. Wanted you to rehost on Azure.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're AWS, then you have to go to AWS and talk to them. But if you don't drive a certain type of consumption, you're not getting into the private offers for them. So you need to really know how the real the commerce work in the cloud and how the enterprise commerce works. So once you know how the money is flowing, you can really go into the right pipe and fit in your product suite, and your offering suite becomes much more easier. But all these bigger brands, the hyperscalers, uh, what I've seen is they all have a very structured way of how they engage with a customer. Very structured way. It may not look from outside, but inside, if you go, they have a reason and they have their Excel spreadsheets and they are managing that list of that book of business. So knowing is who is managing which book of business will be good. For example, let's say Gabe thinks is like, I want to win, let's say, a Walmart as a customer. you need to know what exactly can you offer for Walmart. So when the seller, if you meet the seller, you need to say, for Walmart, I can do XYZ. Is there a possibility that I can do a demo for them, right? Because you're on Azure and driving consumption with your software is anywhere from $2,000 a month to $10,000 a month. You make everybody happy. They'll bring you in front of the customer. If you didn't really perform that one, that's it. You are not invited ever again. So make sure that you know exactly how you're driving the first conversation to the pilot, from pilot to value.
This leads to an interesting question, right? So you were building a product. It's based on Azure technology, so you can sell through the Microsoft ecosystem. However, you're not Microsoft. There's a ton of other cloud stuff out there that might enhance your product. I mean, you looked at Smartsheet and Mailchimp and other form tools. Now, what is like part of the problem with the way the market is forming? It's not just Microsoft. It's AWS and Google are all, of course, want to drive more compute on their platforms. It creates segregations of different ecosystems. All right, but the internet is not set up that way. It doesn't care what your computers look like underneath, like the API protocol. And so at the software level, you can't integrate it. So is there an opportunity there for you? Is it actually friction for you? You may be on Microsoft, but there's a lot of other stuff. Like, is that going to be a problem, or is it an opportunity to arbitrage the other stuff you can bring into the deal that Microsoft may not want to sell?
I see the Microsoft never tells you what you sell, but there has to be a core workload that you have to add value to. So if you're working with Google, you have to have a core workload that whether it's G Suite or Google Cloud or some other product, advertising, you have to have a core workload. Once you are driving that one workload, what you add on top of the technology stack, they really don't care, because you say, this is our core stack, and this stack will drive this for you, this for you, this for you, and this for us. That's it. Once you're very clear in your business model, makes it very easy. Then every deal is not complex. For example, if you want to use like form solutions, there are tons of form solutions. If our product suite for the customer is conflicting with your product, I cannot bring you in, because they'll say, use what I have. Because every customer has everything. What they're really looking for is a solution that is most advanced yet approachable. That's the key. And I call it as Maya, right? Acronym Maya. And this one was a TED talk by one guy, and he explained it is, whatever you do, it has to be very advanced, and then it has to be approachable for the customer. So if your solution conflicts through any of the starting from one conversation to the implementation, usually your solution will die very quickly. That's why, so when we attach the solution, we really work with the founders, making sure it's adding value for them, and it's adding value for us, and adding value for the customer. It's a very strategic decision, Sunir. It's not easy.
Well, I mean, the reason why I asked this is I've been on the Microsoft ecosystem marketplace. It is fairly constrained to things that are on the Azure Compute Cloud, right? And because Azure is later to the market than everything else, the best software on the market is not, like, the unicorn software is not on Azure. So you may not be able to get access to these products if you're trying to drive a Microsoft deal. But so then it's not necessarily the most advanced or the most approachable. So
yes.
how does that affect the customer sale? I mean, the customers are surely not unaware of what's out there. I mean, they must, look at CNBC and hear the bell ring for all these companies.
So if you look at like the marketplace, those are nuts and bolts of in the technology world. The people who make the customer life really amazing are the SIs, right? Because they know which of the best solution to bring in to create the value for the customer. So that is as a SI, I'm constantly looking at what solutions are good, testing it out, doing is review of each solution and saying, does it work? Does it not work? And every scenario is different, because I work in a space that my solutions are there as a standard, which gives confidence for everyone. But really, we are looking at is every customer needs data. Customer needs automation and workflow automation. how do you do it effectively using their software first and then add in some external stuff? That's kind of how we look at. And security is the only area where we have seen the customers are more open for listening to new innovation. Otherwise, they usually drive the conversation. The IT drives the conversation now. They'll say, what about this? What about that?
Yeah, they'll say
So,
New Relic, or they'll say
yeah,
Snowflake or whatever.
yeah.
And so then when you're dealing with Microsoft specifically, because their field sales are kind of trying to look for more just Microsoft under the hood, um, some of these, like, I guess, I believe Snowflake is also Azure friendly now. I'm not sure, but I think it is.
Yeah, all companies which are Series A, B, and C, they have to be compatible with all cloud products, right? I would say the cloud vendor products. They cannot be successful uh, winning the enterprise customers that Microsoft has. Microsoft has pretty much most of the Fortune 1000
Yeah,
companies.
interesting.
So if you have to win those enterprise opportunity, you have to make your software compatible with Microsoft, Google, IBM, and Azure, and you should be on all the four marketplaces. If you're not, that software will not be adopted by some of the customers. So it's a really more of a strategic direction to be there. So when we develop the solution, it is compatible on all platforms. So if a customer says, put on Google, I'm like, sure, we'll do it. If it's on AWS, sure, we'll do it. But where is our customers coming from and where we have developed relationship and capacity, I would say majority is our Microsoft. Because I know a lot of people. That's one
Yeah,
of the
fair enough. Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, it's just like it was in the PC revolution, PC, Mac, OS2, whatever. These are just platforms, right? And so they come with their own customer bases.
exactly.
But it's better now in some respects because it was harder to move software from one platform to the other. Now, of course, you have the network level. You can move data at the network level. And
Mhm,
there's things like Kubernetes and Docker that you can move the compute from machine to machine
mhm.
independently. It doesn't really matter.
It's
So
the
it's just,
same. Yeah, don't invest in migration business. That is not the place you want to invest. Always invest in a value added strategic value for the customer. And then migration is just an action. It just makes it easy to move. If you lead with migration, usually you will have a lot of pushback. There will be a lot of companies who are doing migration. The only edge is have a differentiation and have a value for the customer so they can talk to the management that they're doing something innovative stuff within the company.
all right. Let's wrap it up with one of the a hard question. What can Microsoft do better for you to make you richer?
I would say, I have been very blessed to be a very good partner for them, and they have been a very good partner for me. But I think the place where they can really get better is doing is warm introductions to sellers and customers as well as preferred partners. So kind of doing is like networking not just bring us in the event, but also making sure that strategic conversations are happening. Second is co-invest in a strategic solution development. So if they have picked a solution for co-sell ready, they're going deeper with financial investment. So we don't have to go to a VC. We can actually work with Microsoft and we can really drive. Third one is representing our solution in private offers in the enterprise contracts, because that is the fastest way. I always aspire to have an account manager, but if you do it, then I'm working for them instead of the other way around. So I'm like, I want to ask the universe when I'm ready for it, but a dedicated go to market campaign in a specific industry, and it's focused on an initiative. So that can be a press release so that the customers, when they're looking at it, they say, oh boy, we have to talk to them. That would be my ask of them.
And then what can Smartsheet be doing better to make you more money and richer?
I would say is make it friendlier for partners, to make it easy for to adopt and build a business. We don't want to compete with the professional services. We don't want to, but right now, as a partner, it's very hard, and the margins are so low for reselling the software. It's not even worth it. I would do it because I love the software, but not because I want to do a business with Smartsheet. I'll do because a customer wants it, not because I want to do it as part of my portfolio.
I laugh because Smartsheet have been longtime CSA members.
That's just just me. I love the product. Don't get me wrong. I love the product. But doing like, it really depends upon customer. If they want it, we'll configure it. And I usually send a request to a few people there saying, hey, help them with a professional service if they need it. But the thing is that it's just one piece of the workflow. It's not the entire Smartsheet implementation.
There's been an anonymous request. I assume anonymous because no one wants to admit that none of us understand the Microsoft acronyms because there's too many of them. But for your little black book of Microsoft Ease, will you be willing to share it with the CSA?
Oh yeah, we can. We can. Whatever you want, I'm here because we have an accelerator with women founders that I run. I have done like what's 50 companies. I've taken them through the accelerator to do is a co-sell with Microsoft. So whatever you need, I can come and give you the blueprint so that you are successful. Because here is what my belief is. If you know how to do effective business with Microsoft or Google's of the world, you're actually creating more jobs in the ecosystem than you can think about. Because once you get those deals, you have to hire. And when you hire, you're actually doing a greater good and greater economic development. So for me, I am open. The more jobs we create, the more the merrier.
Do a plug for Women in Cloud. I don't think people understand how connected you are in this little world.
Well, we are trying to create $1 billion of economic access for women by 2030. And right now, the digital spending, which is a digital transformation spend in enterprise with women, is less than 1%. Less than 1%. So my goal and the Women in Cloud goal is to unlock that particular procurement vehicles for women to do more business with enterprise. And that's why I have so much depth on the enterprise market as well as the hyperscalers market. I know what does it take. What's the beautiful equation that is required for you to be successful? Because most of my entrepreneurs who are in the Cloud Accelerator are all ISVs. And I'm like, you cannot sell a product. You have to sell a solution. So how do you put a solution narrative and how do you do a business modeling that makes sense to an enterprise customer? It's a very different language and it's a very different way of engaging with Microsoft and Google's of the world. So if you are interested, I will always open to share that blueprint.
Well, you're an executive member of the CSA, so just toss it into our Slack community. So
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for doing this and let me ask you the hard questions and hopefully not embarrassing you in front of our Microsoft friends.
No. Samir, it was fun. And hopefully the people who are listening, they got something out of it. So put it on the chat. Did you get something out? What were your takeaways?
Yeah. Well, if not here, then in the Slack, because if we close the room. But so if you want to join us, Chai and I and everyone else, we are at cloudsoftwareassociation.com. You can join. The Slack community is free. And we're both exec members, which means we're all part of the peer community supporting each other. You can join that as well. Thank you so much. This is great. Microsoft is, my favorite company of all time. And so it's good to make fun of them occasionally. They can take it. They're rich.
Absolutely. Your wish come true.
All right. Take care. For more great insights on partnerships and software, like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.